If you're looking for a new home, you're probably wondering if you should buy or rent. As an accountant, I crunched the numbers for both options and was shocked with the results. So I went online and found two properties with the same square footage and in the same neighborhood. One of them is listed for sale at $385,000 and another is for rent at $2,500. Because they both have 836 square feet and are in the same exact neighborhood, I think using their numbers would be a fair and accurate comparison. Let's compare how much we'll spend buying and renting these properties, both short-term and long-term. For short-term, I'm thinking about 1 to 5 years from today. And for long-term, I'm thinking about 15 to 30 years from today. Now let's jump into my Excel calculations. Let's start by calculating the expenses with the house purchase. In the first line here, we have the purchase price, and the purchase price of the apartment is going to be $385,000. In the second line, we have our down payment percentage. And one of the most common down payment percentages in the US is 20%, so I put that as 20% here. In our third line, we have the down payment dollar amounts. And I just multiplied $385,000 by our 20% down payment to get $77,000 as our down payment amount. In line number 4, we have our closing fees. A lot of people assume that once they pay their down payment, they're done and they are now the owner of the house. But you also have to pay the closing fees, which usually includes the title fees, loan fees, fees for the lawyers, and fees for transfer taxes. In line number 5, we have home insurance, and I put that as $1,200 or $100 a month. As a homeowner, you're responsible for the home insurance just in case if something happens to your house. In line number 6 here, we have the HOA cost. The property that we found is part of the HOA, and HOA charges $320 per month. So multiplying $320 by 12 months, we got $3,840 for the year. In line number 7, we have the property taxes. As a homeowner, you have to pay property taxes, and it's about 1.86% of the home price in the area that we're looking for. So multiplying the home value, $385,000 by 1.86%, we got $7,161 here. In line number 8 here, we need to input our mortgage rate. And when I check the mortgage rate as of today, it's about 6.35%. So I put that here. In the next line, line number 9, is our inflation rate. Inflation rate tells you by how much you should expect the prices of everything to go up in the future. Historically, the average annual inflation rate has been at 3%. So we'll just assume that it's going to be also 3% going forward. And in the last line here, as a homeowner, you're responsible for making fixes to your house like painting, AC issues, and plumbing issues. And for our purposes, we'll assume that you'll spend about 1% of the value of the house each year on making these fixes. So with these numbers in mind that we just went over, I put together this table for the next 30 years to determine the costs of owning a house. Let's go over this table one column at a time. In the first column here, we have our down payment on buying the house. So we put $77,000, and since we're paying the down payment only once, I put 0 for all the future years. The next column is closing fees, and it's exactly the same as down payment. We only pay it in year 1, and then we use 0 for all the future years. And in the next column here, we have our home upkeep, which based on our assumption, we use 1% of the home value for all the years to make any fixes to the house. The next column here is our home value. You see that we start with $385,000 based on our purchase price, but we're increasing the value of the home by 3% every year to match with inflation. So you'll see by year 30, the value of the home is expected to be $907,000. The next line here is our mortgage payment, which consists of the principal payment on the loan as well as the interest payment to the bank. You'll see that the mortgage payment will be consistently at $22,998 for all the future years. This mortgage payment is split into principal payment and interest payment, which are the next two columns here. You'll notice that in year 1, out of your $23,000 mortgage payment, only $3,542 is covering for a principal payment, and you're paying $19,456 to the bank for the interest. But then each year after, you start paying more in principal payments and less in interest payments. So by year 30, you're paying $22,226 of the loan amount and only $772 for the interest payments to the bank. In the next column here, we have HOA payments. We start with $3,840, but then we also increase it by 3% with the inflation rate every year. So by year 30, you would expect to pay around $9,000 in HOA fees. The next column is tax payments. So we start with $7,161 and also increase it by 3% every year. In the column total spend, we're adding all the expenses, which includes the down payment, closing fees, home upkeep, principal payment, interest payment, HOA payments, and tax payments to get us the total expenses for each year. Since the total spend column is our expenses at a yearly basis, I also have this column called rolling spend balance, which combines the expenses for all the previous years as well. So by year 30, we expect to spend almost $1.5 million on owning the house. In the next column, we have the remaining loan amount, and this is how much you still owe the bank after every single year. So you'll see that by year 30, you're at zero because you paid off the loan amount. In this column, we have the rolling equity ownership. So this column tells you how much of the house you already own. And in the final column, we have the net spending for each year. The net spending uses the formula of the spend balance amount minus the equity ownership amount. This column is your true cost of owning a house after every year. So now let's calculate the expenses associated with renting. We have annual rent at $30,000, which is $2,500 per month multiplied by 12 months. The next assumption is the annual inflation rate, which we're also using 3% for. The next line here is the broker fee. Whenever you rent an apartment, you usually have to pay broker fees to the real estate agents. And their commission rate is usually 1 month of rent, so I made that assumption here. And we'll also assume that a renter will change apartments once every 5 years. And in the last line here, we have the annual renter's insurance, and it's usually about $25 per month. So multiplied by 12 months, that's going to be $300. And in the next table here, we have the expenses of renting for the next 30 years. The first column here is the broker's commission fees. We're assuming it's 1 month of rent, and we're assuming that a person will move once every 5 years. So most of the years are going to be zero. The next column here is the annual rent, and we're starting with $30,000. But with inflation and landlords increasing the rate, I assume that every single year will increase these by 3% as well. So by year 30, you'll have to pay $70,000 in rent. The next column is the annual renter's insurance, and we're starting with $300 and are increasing by 3% inflation rate every year as well. In the column total annual spend, we're taking all our expenses, including the commission fees, the annual rent, and the annual insurance to be able to get these numbers. And in the last column, we have the rolling spend balance, which includes your spend or expenses for all the previous years as well. So now let's compare the total expenses of buying versus renting after 1 year. For buying, we would have spent $130,249, but then we would have had $80,542 in equity. The net expenses with the buying options after year 1 is minus $49,707. With renting, on the other hand, we would have spent $32,800 in expenses, and we would not own anything on the house, so I put that as zero. So the net expenses for renting is negative $32,800. So after year 1, you are $16,907 better off renting compared to buying a house. After year 5, with the buying option, you would have spent $286,000, and you would have had $145,000 in equity, which results in net expenses of $140,000. For renting, the net expenses are $163,000, which is $22,000 more compared to buying. So now you see that the buying option is better if you look at it 5 years from now. Now let's check out 15 years from now. Based on our calculations here, the renting option will cost you $218,000 more compared to the buying option. And finally, after 30 years, you'll notice that the expenses of buying and renting are almost exactly the same, but you will own equity of $907,000 while you won't own anything with the renting option, so you'll see that as zero. So you'll spend $882,000 over 30 years more for renting compared to buying. And in this graph, I put our expenses for both buying and renting options for the next 30 years. The line in blue here is for our buying option, and the line in orange is for the renting option. You'll see that in first years, the orange line or the renting line is below the blue lines. So renting is less expensive at the start. But as time goes on, especially after year 4 and 5, you'll notice that the lines intersect and then the renting starts becoming way more expensive compared to the buying option. And keep in mind that after 30 years, you're now the owner of the house, so you don't have to pay anything to the banks and your expenses are going to be a lot less. But with the renting option, your rent is going to continue increasing every single year. As we have seen from our numbers, while renting is less expensive in the short term, buying a property is still a better long-term decision. Keep in mind that this video only covers the financial differences between the two options. There are other important personal factors that should influence your decision to either buy or rent. But I'm hoping that now, with an understanding how the financials work, it will be even easier for you to make a well-informed decision in the future. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.